At Christmas, my mother-in-law looked at my 6-year-old and said, "Children from mommies cheating don't get to call me grandma." She said it immediately after rejecting the gift my daughter had proudly made for her. Then my son stood up and spoke. The entire room went dead silent. I swear the living room itself seemed to stop breathing. Even the cheap little porcelain angel on my mother-in-law's mantel looked like it wanted to cover its ears. And me, I just stood there like someone had unplugged my brain. My mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a goldfish experiencing emotional trauma. My 6-year-old daughter, Mia, didn't fully understand the words. Not completely. But she understood the rejection. Her face crumpled like tissue paper left out in the rain. That's when the dizziness hit me so hard I had to grab the back of a chair. Not because I feared falling, but to stop myself from grabbing my mother-in-law, Sharon, instead. Everything had seemed normal just a minute earlier, or at least normal by Sharon's standards, which meant aggressively festive and deeply fake. Her tree twinkled. The cinnamon candles battled the burnt ham smell from the kitchen. Presents were stacked like we were filming an ad for seasonal overspending. Favoritism flowed freely, like box wine at a PDA mixer. Bella went first, my sister-in-law Melanie's daughter, roughly the same age as my kids, and clearly the golden child. She handed Sharon a mug she'd decorated at school, a lumpy, glitter-encrusted thing that looked like it needed immediate hospitalization. Sharon shrieked as though she'd been given the Holy Grail, swooping Bella into her arms while my father-in-law, Lawrence, clapped like an animatronic grandfather programmed for enthusiasm. Then my older son, Noah, handed over his gift, a simple drawing of him and Sharon sledding. She squealed again, smoothed his hair, praised his artistry, and gave him a box bigger than him. Inside was a remote control car with flashing lights and wheels that apparently could drive on walls, ceilings, or outer space. Then it was Mia's turn. She received a little plastic doll with hair so sparse it looked like it had survived a bleach accident. Sharon smiled at her in that thin, strained way she used only when wishing she were smiling at literally anyone else. But Mia didn't notice. She was too excited, too proud. My sweet girl had spent days working on her picture. She held it with both hands, eyes bright, bouncing in place like a puppy ready to be praised. She handed it over, and everything collapsed. Sharon took the picture, looked at it, looked at Mia, then looked at me in the sweetest, most poisonous tone imaginable. She said the line that will echo in my skull until I die. "Children from mommies cheating don't get to call me grandma, honey." I felt every word like a physical slap. Mia froze, as if a kill switch had been flipped inside her. Her mouth trembled, her eyes filled. The first tear slid down slow and heavy, the kind a child cries when the world suddenly stops making sense. Lawrence shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Melanie looked like she wanted to smile, but knew better. Thomas, wow. He looked like someone had shoved him underwater. His eyes were wide, stunned, his whole body rigid. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. And me, I was vibrating. Rage crawled up my spine in hot, electric waves. I felt it in my teeth, my fingertips, my pulse. But before I could speak, before I could unleash anything, Noah stood. My 8-year-old, the child they adored, the one who could do no wrong, stood so fast his chair scraped loud across the hardwood. Everyone flinched. He walked straight to Sharon, jaw clenched, eyes burning with something I had never seen in him before. Something fierce, heartbreakingly adult. He reached out and snatched back the picture he'd given her earlier, the sledding one she had gushed over. Then he placed a giant remote control car, the perfect, expensive, adored gift, back at her feet. The room gasped. Even Melanie blinked like someone had unplugged her. Then Noah spoke, voice steady but trembling at the edges. "If my sister can't call you grandma, then neither will I." Silence. Thick, stunned, suffocating silence. Bella stared. Melanie's mouth fell open. Sharon reeled back like she'd been struck. Noah turned to Mia and took her hand gently, like she was made of something precious. Then he looked at me and said, "Mom, can we go? I don't want to be here." Not a question, a verdict. "Yes," I said, "we're leaving." Thomas rose too slowly, but with purpose. There was something in his face, shame, dawning clarity, or maybe just a realization that his mother had burned a bridge he could never rebuild. No one stopped us. No one tried. We walked to the door, the four of us, holding on to each other like crossing a battlefield. And as I reached the handle, I felt a sharp, sickening sense that this was only the beginning. The real explosion hadn't even started. A shadow fell across Sharon's face. Melanie's hand flew to her phone. Lawrence muttered something under his breath. Then we stepped out into the cold December air, and the door closed behind us with the snap of a loaded gun. If you had told me years ago that Sharon would one day accuse me of cheating in front of my 6-year-old, I wouldn't have believed it. Not because she wasn't capable, but because I never imagined the universe could be so precise. Yet, here we are, and honestly, all the signs were there. I just kept telling myself they weren't. Let's start from the beginning. I met Thomas at a game night I wasn't even supposed to attend. I had endured a terrible day, the kind that makes you aggressively rethink every life choice you've ever made. A friend persuaded me to go out. There will be food, she said. Maybe someone cute. There was indeed food. The cute part, however, was debatable. I walked in and saw him, a tall, nervously awkward-looking guy in a NASA t-shirt, sorting game pieces by color with the intensity of someone defusing a bomb. He looked up, pushed his glasses up his nose, and said, completely serious, the probability distributions in this game heavily favor the starting player. Reader, he had me. Beneath the awkward delivery and the statistics lecture, he was kind. He listened when I spoke. He cared deeply, though not in the performative way most people do. It was refreshing. He wasn't charming. He wasn't smooth. But he was earnest in a way that made you trust every word he spoke. Unfortunately, he had been raised by people who considered earnestness a genetic flaw. The first time he took me to meet his parents, Sharon opened the door and regarded me like an overdue library book she hadn't requested. "Oh," she said, "you're Emily?" "Yes," I replied. "And you're Sharon?" Her smile tightened. "You're shorter than I expected." "Right. Good. Off to an excellent start." Lawrence hovered behind her like a nervous pensioner waiting for permission to breathe. He shook my hand with all the confidence of a man trained never to initiate a thought. Inside, the house was a shrine to Thomas's academic achievements. Every wall displayed baby PhD photos, as if documenting the evolution of a perfect lab specimen. That dinner was one long interrogation disguised as polite conversation. "What do your parents do? What are you studying? Do you cook? Are you good with money? Thomas is very special, you know. He needs the right kind of wife." Under the table, Thomas squeezed my knee, as if to say, "I know, just endure." I barely endured. What I didn't know yet was that I was also auditioning to compete with his family for his wallet. I discovered he was helping them financially purely by accident. One day, early in our relationship, I walked past his laptop and noticed a bank tab open. I wasn't snooping. My peripheral vision was simply doing its job. There was a recurring payment to his parents' mortgage company. "Why are you paying their mortgage?" I asked. "Because subtlety is not a skill I possess," he admitted. "It's not. I mean, they just need a little help." "Thomas," I said, "you're a grad student. You're one lab accident away from eating cereal for dinner." "I have a scholarship," he protested. "And the lab pays. They really appreciate it." Spoiler, they did not. Then I noticed another line, a transfer to Melanie. "Why are you paying your sister?" "She's between jobs." Melanie is always between jobs. It's her natural habitat. I didn't argue. I told myself it was his money, his family, his choice. I also told myself it was temporary, which now seems adorably naive. Fast forward. Thomas finishes his master's, enters a PhD program, works 70-hour weeks for the salary of a middle school babysitter, and still sends money home like he's sponsoring 2 ungrateful contestants on a game show. Then he gets a well-paid job in applied science, and I think, finally, breathing room. Instead, the requests escalate. Bella's special programs, Melanie's new degree, their parents' home repairs, a temporary monthly contribution that somehow lasts 3 years. Every time I raise the topic, Thomas looks at me as if I asked him to abandon a wounded puppy. "They need help," he says. "We're doing okay." We were doing okay, cutting corners quietly while his parents enjoyed emergency bathroom upgrades. Then Noah was born, and everything else blurred for a while. My in-laws adored him instantly. He looks just like Thomas. They kept saying, "Our genes are strong." Not mine, but I was too sleep-deprived to fight about pronouns. 2 years later, Mia arrived. As the newborn haze lifted and her features began to take shape, I started catching flashes of someone I hadn't seen in years. My late grandmother. The same gentle eyes, the same little half smile, the same quiet softness in her face. It hit me unexpectedly. My grandmother had been the safest place in my childhood. Warm, steady, endlessly patient. Seeing pieces of her Mia felt like getting a small part of her back. When my mother-in-law first saw Mia, she frowned. "She doesn't look like Noah. She looks like my grandmother." I said, "Oh," she replied, as if I suggested the baby was part alien. "Well, hopefully she grows into the family, like shoes or debt." Then the teasing began. "Are you sure she's his?" "We're just joking." "Relax. It's just funny. Noah is Mini Thomas, and Mia is... I don't know where she came from. She looks like my grandmother." I insisted, over and over. They squinted at the photos, shrugged, and implied I'd somehow recreated my grandmother using the mailman's DNA. As Mia grew older, so did the cruelty. Little comments at birthdays, whispered snipes at family dinners. "She really doesn't look like our side. You might have to tell her the truth someday." The favoritism grew, too. Noah received the big gifts, the praise, the special outings. Mia, on the other hand, always got the bargain bin afterthoughts. She always noticed. Once, Noah received a cupcake with a superhero topper and double the frosting. Mia naturally got the sad economy version. Calmly, Noah transferred half his frosting onto her plate and handed her the superhero topper. "There," he said. "Better." I had to pretend to look at my phone, so I wouldn't cry in public. I tried explaining to Thomas. "It's not intentional," he said. Intentional or not, my daughter was learning that she was considered less in that house. And on Christmas, she learned precisely how little Sharon thought of her. So yes, when Sharon shoved Mia's picture back at her and said, "Children from Mommy's cheating don't get to call me Grandma," I wasn't shocked, but I was done. I had no idea, however, that the detonation she triggered was only the beginning. By the time we returned home from Christmas, I thought I was emotionally drained. Turns out I was wrong. I tucked Noah and Mia into our bed with a movie because the thought of them being more than 6 feet away from me was unbearable. Then I walked down the hall, fully expecting to find Thomas pacing, spiraling, or silently imploding. Instead, I found him sitting at his desk, still in his coat, bathed in the cold glow of the monitor, clicking buttons like he was dismantling a bomb. "Thomas," I said cautiously, "what are you doing?" He didn't even glance up. "Fixing something," he replied, a tone exactly like the one a man uses just before doing something irreversible. I stepped behind him. My heartbeat erupted into a dramatic, "Oh no, no, no," percussion solo. His bank account was open. Recurring payments. Transfers. Auto payments. Tabs labeled mortgage contribution and Melanie monthly. Next to each one, cancel. 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 One click. Another click. Another artery cut. "Wait," I said, grabbing the back of his chair. Are you canceling everything?" "Yes," he said. That was it. One word. A guillotine of a syllable. "You mean your parents' mortgage, your sister's bills, Bella's, all of it?" He still didn't look at me. His jaw was locked, shoulder stiff, as if carved from cold stone. My mind scrambled through every version of Thomas the First I'd ever known. Gentle Thomas, conflict-avoidant Thomas, apologetic Thomas. None of them matched the man sitting here, deleting payment methods as if they owed him money. "This is sudden," I said, which was an understatement of the decade. He exhaled and finally leaned back in his chair. Not relaxed, just done. "You know what hit me tonight?" he asked, voice low. My 8-year-old did what I should have done. He finally looked at me. His eyes were red, furious, ashamed. "It should have been me," he said. "I should have defended her. I should have said something. I let them talk about you for years. I let them talk around Mia. But tonight, they said it to her face, and I froze. His voice cracked and the word froze. My stomach twisted. I wanted to grab him, reassure him, do something. But he wasn't finished. Noah shouldn't have been the one to stand up for her, he continued. He shouldn't have felt like he had to. That's on me, and I'm not letting it happen again. He turned back to the screen and clicked remove card once more. You have no idea, he went on, how many times I told myself it was helping them. How many times I thought it was temporary, that they'd appreciate it, that I was doing the right thing. His laugh was short and sharp. They never saw me as helping them. They saw me as obligated, and tonight proved that. I sat on the edge of the desk, my legs unprepared for this kind of emotional earthquake. So you're done? I asked quietly. He nodded. Done sacrificing our kids' experiences, so my mother can tell Mia she's a mistake. Done paying Melanie's bills, so she can mock my daughter's existence. Done being the wallet they kick whenever they're bored. I swallowed hard. Thomas, they're going to explode. Let them, he said. They've been detonating on us for years. He hit one last confirm, and the page refreshed as if he had just exorcised a demon. And then, of course, his phone buzzed. He stared at it like someone had texted him the word boo from inside his closet. My mom, he said. Of course, he answered, putting it on speaker, because apparently we were embracing transparency now. Thomas, she shrieked immediately. We just got a notification that our mortgage payment method was removed. Did the bank screw something up? What is going on? No, he said calmly. I removed it. Silence. Then a sound like she'd been dramatically slapped by invisible hands. What do you mean you removed it? She demanded. You can't just... Your father is panicking. You'll have to pay it yourselves, he said. I'm not doing it anymore. Are you kidding me? After everything we've done for you, we rely on that. We need that. I was pretty sure my eyebrows hit the ceiling. Thomas didn't flinch. I have my own family to support. We are your family, she shrieked. This is because of her, isn't it? She's turning you against us. She's poisoning. Stop, he said. This isn't Emily. This is me. I could have kissed him right on the mouth, right there in the middle of the room, with his mom screaming on speakerphone like a malfunctioning fire alarm. You told my daughter, he continued, that she came from cheating. You shoved her gift back in her face. You humiliated her. Oh, please, Sharon snapped. She's 6. She'll forget. Maybe, he said, voice sharp, but Noah won't, and neither will I. Her voice went into full banshee mode. You're being dramatic. You're destroying this family. You already did, he said. You just didn't expect me to notice. He hung up. Thomas, the man who once apologized to a telemarketer for not being interested, hung up on his mother. I stared at him. He stared at the floor. His shoulders were trembling. Before I could even make a comforting noise, the phone buzzed again. Melanie. Oh, no, I muttered. Level 2, he answered. What the hell, Thomas? She snapped. Mom just called me crying. You cut her off, and me? How am I supposed to pay for Bella's classes? That's not my problem, he said. You can't do that, she shouted. All because Mom made a joke. She insulted my daughter, he said. And you backed her up? Oh, for cry out loud, Melanie groaned. It was funny. Everyone thinks Mia looks nothing like. Don't, he said. Finish that sentence. She did anyway. You don't even know if she's yours. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. That's it, he said. We're done. You're throwing away your family, she screamed. No, he said. I'm protecting mine. He hung up again. Then he leaned back, covered his face, and let out a breath that sounded like 6 years of holding everything in. I walked over and wrapped my arms around him. He didn't pull away. I'm proud of you, I whispered. He didn't speak for a moment, just breathed. And I knew, deep in my bones, that this wasn't the end. This was the fuse lighting. If there's one thing I've learned about people like Sharon, it's this. They don't lick their wounds. They sharpen their teeth. The smear campaign began less than 48 hours after Thomas cut them off. I was buttering toast for Mia when my phone buzzed with a message from a cousin I hadn't talked to in 2 years. Hey, Are you okay? Your ML posted something intense. That's never a good sentence to wake up to. I opened Facebook, and there it was, a full-length tragic monologue written by Sharon, complete with dramatic line breaks and a sepia-toned picture of her holding baby Thomas like he was a fallen soldier. According to her, she had lost her son to a manipulative woman, been cut off financially by force, been alienated from her grandson through brainwashing, and punished for speaking the truth everyone can see. Then came the stinger. We only ever express concern because Mia looks nothing like our family. Snorts. We just want to protect our son. For that, we were exiled. And then, as if summoned by the Devil's group chat itself, Melanie swooped into the comments like a Walmart brand hype woman. She's using him. He's blinded by love. This is exactly what happens when the wrong woman takes control. Screenshots of Noah and Mia appeared side by side, their faces circled like evidence from a crime scene. My stomach twisted. Emily? Thomas asked from behind me, his voice carrying that, "Tell me now before I punch a hole in the drywall edge." I showed him the screen. He stared for a long moment. His jaw dropped and clenched, then twitched in a way that looked dangerously close to a spasm. "They're telling people you cheated," he said. "Yes," I replied. "Welcome to the Sharon experience, now with bonus public humiliation." He rubbed his face. "People are actually agreeing with her. This is insane." "Is it?" I asked. She's been rehearsing this narrative for years. This is just the first time she's had an audience. Then, as if the universe decided to add extra drama, notifications started flooding in. Wow. I always wondered he should get a DNA test. Poor Thomas. She's clearly manipulating him. That little girl looks nothing like him. Just saying. My lungs felt tight. Too small. Thomas took the phone gently from my hands and set it down before I could throw it into the toaster. "You don't deserve any of this," he said quietly. "Just tell me what you want to do, and I'm with you." I took a deep breath. "We're getting a DNA test. Let's end this circus." Mia didn't understand why someone swabbed the inside of her cheek, but Thomas explained it like it was a fun science club experiment. Noah asked if he could get swabbed too. We told him maybe next time. Waiting for the results felt like holding my breath underwater. Not because I doubted, never that, but because I knew what would happen when the truth saw daylight. Sharon could not hide from daylight. While we waited, I went to my mother's house and pulled out the old photo boxes. My grandmother's face looked back at me from every angle. Smiling, serious, laughing with the same soft eye crinkle Mia has when she's truly happy. The resemblance wasn't just uncanny. It felt like a piece of her had been stitched into my daughter. Something Sharon would have known if she hadn't spent the last decade pretending my family didn't exist. When the DNA email arrived, I opened it sitting next to Thomas on the couch, my leg bouncing like a nervous rabbit. Probability of paternity, 99.999%. I exhaled, realizing I'd been holding my breath far longer than I knew. "Congrats," I said dryly. "You are, in fact, the father of the child you've been raising for 6 years," he snorted. "Send it to me?" We didn't respond to Sharon. No comments, no tags, no confrontations. We simply made our own post, a collage, Mia smiling, Thomas holding baby Mia, a picture of my grandmother, Mia next to my grandmother, with one caption. For anyone who's heard the rumors, here are the facts. Mia is Thomas's biological child, DNA attached. She also looks exactly like Emily's grandmother. Something you'd know if you ever bothered to learn her family instead of questioning her fidelity for years. Someone had told our 6-year-old she came from mommy's cheating and that she doesn't get to call her grandma, said directly to her face. That's why we cut contact. That's why financial support ended. You don't speak to a child that way and keep access to them. Thomas reposted the same thing with an extra paragraph. Since grad school, I've sent my parents and sister roughly $500 to $900 a month. Whatever they asked for, whatever they said they couldn't cover. When I totaled it all, it came to $80,940. I have every transfer. After all that, they accused my wife of cheating and told my daughter she isn't mine. We're done here. We hit post. Then waited 7 minutes. Nothing. Then everything happened. Comments flooded in. I had no idea she said that to Mia. That's disgusting. Oh, wow. The resemblance to your grandmother is undeniable. I'm so sorry. No child deserves that. Honestly, good for you for cutting them off. In the group chats, silence, then confusion, then the quiet, satisfying crumble of people realizing they backed the wrong side. One cousin messaged me privately. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought Sharon was exaggerating. This is awful. Another. She really said that to a 6-year-old? Not okay. Even better. Sharon had a big birthday coming up, one she'd been planning for months. Invitations went out to half the extended family, and one by one, everyone canceled. Sorry, can't make it. Not attending after what I heard. I'm uncomfortable supporting someone who talks to children that way. She ended up with an overpriced cake, an empty room, and Lawrence pretending he liked being alone with her. I won't lie, I savored that image. The real twist came later that week. A call from an unfamiliar number. Is this Emily? A voice asked. Older, sharper, polished. Yes, this is Virginia. I said, Thomas's aunt. I froze. We'd met twice. She was Sharon's older sister, 10 years wiser and 90 degrees less unhinged. I saw the post, she said. I also got the unfiltered version from someone who actually has a spine. I didn't dare laugh, but I wanted to. I just had one question. Did Sharon really say that to your daughter? Yes, I said, to her face. And the $80,000 is accurate. I heard a long exhale. Well, she said, her voice crisp, I've made a decision. My heart jumped. What kind of decision? The kind that involves lawyers, she said, and wills. I gripped the counter. I've removed my sister, she continued. Every cent she expected now goes to Thomas and the children. I've also established a trust fund that starts paying out immediately. I'd rather see my money help a family with integrity than reward cruelty. I couldn't speak. And before you worry, she added, this is not charity. This is justice. Your children deserve better than growing up under the shadow of Sharon's bitterness. When I hung up, I stood stunned, heart pounding. Thomas walked in. Who was that? Your aunt, I said. You're going to sit down. Suddenly, for the first time in years, the balance of power shifted. Not because we fought harder, not because we screamed louder, but because someone finally saw the truth and decided enough was enough. The best part? Sharon couldn't blame me. She did it to herself. 6 months later, the silence is still blissful. My in-laws, not so much. Once Thomas cut the financial cord, they spiraled. They had to sell their house, downsize, and finally admit, according to one cousin, that relying on a future inheritance wasn't a retirement plan, especially since that inheritance went to us, Thomas's aunt, the one with the late millionaire husband. She rewrote her, well, the same week the drama blew up. The substantial money Sharon had counted on all her life now sits in a trust for our kids and a generous chunk for us too. Meanwhile, we've started traveling, living easily for the first time ever. So, what do you think? Too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.